I don't believe there should be rules around relationships, really. What I want to do is give some suggestions that may or may not work for you. And I will say there's some fantastic articles out there about how to communicate, how to make things better in the worst of times. And I truly believe no matter what situation you're in, it's up to you as an individual to do what you can to make things better for you and to make things better for whomever you're living with. But I would say suggestion number one, and please interrupt me, send questions on chat, raise your hand if any of this aligns with your thinking or resonates with you in any way. But I would say the first suggestion is seek to understand. This is a time, because we are in solitude for the most part, to find out about yourself, do a little bit of self-discovery, a little bit of self-examination. Before all this, we lived in the external world. I was running and doing errands on weekends, getting a little bit of exercise, not that much, doing my work, doing my cooking. We had this external world of activity. And I didn't spend enough time really reflecting on the recent past or the past, or really thinking about my own personality traits and how they play into relationships. I actually did study this when I wrote my book, and it was an aha moment for me because I had been making the same relationship mistakes over and over and over again. And it was my own personality traits that led me in the direction I always went to, albeit with a different partner, but I was taking myself wherever I went. So I think this is a good time to do by yourself and even with your partner, anybody in your household, a personality assessment of some kind. I know Gail supports one. There are many that you can do. But if you can find out the pros and the cons, the positives and the negatives of your own personality, then you can navigate the relationship better. And if you know the personality and understand the personality of the person with whom you're living, that's ever so helpful. I found that my partner, we've been married 6 years now. We dated for many, so I would say I road tested this relationship to make sure it would have legs, it would work. But he's sort of a peacemaker type, and I sort of am needy. So I'm aware of the fact that I need to be a little more self-reliant, a little bit more independent, a little less critical. I'm looking at the negatives in my personality to make sure that they don't flow into our day-to-day when we're around each other all the time. So nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. My partner's not perfect. He's also my husband. But I think knowing your personality type is going to be fun and helpful, and it's an exercise you can do together. Share and exchange. Everything you read is communicate, over-communicate during this time. And I think that's really good. I think it's good to share your schedules, your thoughts, how you're interacting with others, your needs, your desires, what have you. But there was one thing I just really didn't want to share with my husband, but because we're both home and he sees when the UPS and the Postal Service arrive, I can't hide much of anything. So I had to come clean and tell him I had spent close to $100 on buying toilet paper on the internet. I got scammed twice in one day. And I wasn't very proud about that. But we have toilet paper, let's put it that way. But it was kind of one of those things. I ended up sharing it, and he was like, how could you spend that kind of money? I don't know what I was thinking. But we had a good chuckle about it. So I do share everything, and that's kind of taken the edge off. John Gray has written a couple of books. His most recent one was When Mars and Venus Collide, and not really to get into the gender thing, right, but he did say that, women often take on a lot of extra responsibility with the family and the being out in the workforce and so forth. And they often like to come home and just sort of get it out. Whereas sometimes men are more, take it in, go into the cave, have solitude at the end of the day. And so what people should do is before you start to vent, the other party should say, okay, what role would you like me to play? Would you like me to just listen to you? Are you looking for advice? Do you want us to problem solve this thing together? You tell me what role you want me to play, and then I think it's going to go better. And so that's sort of the way we work it here too, because sometimes I don't necessarily want an opinion. I just want to be heard. And I think, don't necessarily set ground rules, but just sort of put it out there. How do you want me to handle this? And I'll be there for you. I love you. I'm going to be supportive emotionally, but tell me how I can help you. Or if not, if you just want me to listen, that's fine. Don't be the first responder. And I say that tongue in cheek, but so often someone will say something that sounds abrupt to us, and we feel like we have to come back with a retort. And a situation, again, my husband and I had the other day, he wanted my input on something he was ordering on Amazon. Sounds like we do a lot of ordering here on the internet. And it was something I wasn't particularly interested in. I think it was a garden hose or something like that. So I walked in with my my smartphone, and I started texting somebody. I mean, a text came into me, so I wanted to answer it right away. And I'm looking down. He said, "You're not listening, are you?" And I just kind of blew that off. Then he said, "You're not listening." And I blew that off. And then he says, "I can't believe how rude you're being." Now, I could have come back and said, I wasn't being rude. I was just texting so-and-so. But in my heart of hearts, I knew I was being rude, so I kept my mouth shut. I was rude. So I started paying attention. And so we made the transaction, whatever it was. And then afterwards, we laughed about it because I did say, hey, yeah, I'm really sorry about that. I wasn't paying attention. I'm glad we got through this. And we both had a good laugh. But I didn't have to respond. He was right in that instance. Just pay attention.